Today, we're diving into the world of smart investing. Specifically, we're going to go through a recipe that helps investors build their portfolio and pick what things they need to do over time to watch it grow. Recently, I've been reading this book by Larry Bates called Beat the Bank. It's all about how you, as a Canadian investor, could potentially do better than just investing with your bank. And there's a part in this book that I think is really interesting personally because it talks about the elements that help you build wealth or that might kill your wealth. Specifically, you've got 3 wealth builders, 3 wealth killers. I want to talk to you a little bit about this because I thought it was really interesting. And I thought it goes into something that we don't talk about enough here on the channel, which is how do you actually build a portfolio? If you're not somebody who's necessarily actively trading stocks or is stock picking and is just sort of building piece by piece, how do you, as a big picture person, build a portfolio that's going to last you for your whole life? Well, this book does a pretty good job of giving a basic formula to do that. My name is Liam. Welcome to Golden Arch Investing. On this channel, we love to talk about Canadian investing. And today, this applies to anybody. So if you're an American viewer, it applies to you as well. I want to dive into these 3 wealth builders and 3 wealth killers. We'll go through the wealth builders first. I'll explain what he's saying to us. I'll go through the wealth killers, and then I'm going to give you some of my thoughts and what I think is really interesting, how I'm going to use this like practical advice. And I got some notes up here on the screen that I would just love to go through. So the first wealth builder is amount. And what that means is the amount you're actually saving and investing on a regular basis. So we're talking month to month, week to week, right? So if that's your couple $100 a month, let's say, that's your amount. Now, obviously, the amount you invest is going to dramatically change your overall returns. If you get 20% on $20, you're looking at a lot less money than 20% on $100. So if you repeat that experience every month, you're going to see a lot more money if you put more money in. Now, some of the things that he talks about here, he talks about paying yourself first. So have some of your money just go straight there. You can have an automatic set up with your bank maybe, or you could even like have your paycheck split. So some of your paycheck goes directly to your brokerage or to a savings account, wherever it is. It's really easy to pay yourself first. Make sure that money is gone. You don't have to think about it every month. Automating things can make it really easy psychologically to stay disciplined. I definitely agree with that. I think it's really interesting. And again, here, consistency is key. The overall amount, if you deposit 10 grand once, month on month on month on month, is not going to look quite as great as if you're doing $500 every month for the rest of your working life, for years and years and years. Second wealth builder here is time. I love this. Time is your best friend as an investor, and time is always the way you can tell somebody who's an investor versus a trader. He mentions the earlier you start, longer you grow, the more you compound. 100%. Small regular amounts early is better than saving up a big chunk and investing it later. Compounding is huge. Obviously, we have the Charlie Munger quote there talking about it as one of the wonders of the world. Small amounts of money compounded over a longer time can become huge. Third wealth builder up here is what he calls rate of return. Now, as an individual investor, I personally and you personally have very little control over the markets, but I do have a lot of control over my strategy. Keys here are first and foremost to have a nice, solid, consistent rate of return that fits your goals. Now, really important here, rate of return can be positive or negative. The biggest thing that's important if you're looking for long-term growth is not to interrupt the process. And so if you have bad years, as we all will have, you want to make sure they're as minimally damaging as possible to your overall portfolio growth. Diversification is really important. And if you're even like a percent or 2 above market returns over the long run, you're going to have some amazing results in the long term. The wealth killers here, the next 3 things we're going to talk about, are really interesting as well, because some of these wealth killers are things I don't know we think about as stock pickers, as active investors. The first one is fees. Now, this is a common thread in the Canadian markets, at the very least, where mutual funds are still huge. And some of these mutual funds are terrible. I'm not saying their returns aren't good or keeping up with the market or safe and they're not actively managed and the professionals that do that aren't good. What I am saying is it's costing you 2%. And the amount of mutual funds that do beat the market are few and far between. So avoiding fees is the easiest way to improve your overall investment returns. If you're getting market returns for the rest of your life, avoiding fees is like the number one thing you as an investor can do. ETFs, buy index funds, skip a mutual fund if you're just going for market returns. Second thing on here, taxes. Man, it's one of those inevitable things, right? Nobody likes taxes. Nobody likes taxes, but it's going to happen. We're all going to get taxed. And there's different ways you can plan this out. I actually, as a Canadian investor, my whole portfolio strategy is based on the idea of aiming for a cheaper tax rate based on getting paid out in dividends. It's just a strategy I'm using. There's other places in the world where, depending on what accounts you're using, right? TFSAs, RRSPs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, you can make things work for you. And the final thing here, inflation. I know, buzzword again. And this book, I believe, was written before the inflationary crisis of the last couple of years. But if you're making a 2-3% return every year, your money's not gaining any value, because that's where inflation has been historically. If you don't beat inflation, you're not actually investing at all. There is no rate of return. So you have to make sure that you are outpacing inflation. I think it's the main reason why I wouldn't ever recommend to someone to just let their money sit in a savings account for the rest of their life. Because what are savings accounts paying out? Good ones right now might pay out 3-4%, but for a long time, it was in less than 1%. In the 0 to 1 range. Not great money. Those are our 3 wealth builders or 3 wealth killers. Really interesting. Now I have a few practical tips of things that I think will help you use these and use these concepts to help your portfolio work in the long run. First things first, diversification. The worst thing you can do to yourself is get a negative rate of return on your portfolio. The worst thing. That is the most damaging thing you could do, because you're taking a year of time, which is one of the valuable things you need to build a portfolio. And instead of making any money, you're losing money. So you're losing time and money at the same time. It sucks. Can you avoid it entirely? No. But you can avoid how damaging it is to your portfolio. Now, ironically here, I want to talk also about not over diversifying if you are interested in rate of return. It is not possible to beat the market if you just own the market. Now, owning the market is the ideal passive investor strategy, and for most of us, it should be the core of our portfolio. But for those of us that have extra money on the side, or additional portfolios, or just those 5-10% positions that are in other places than just the market general, I think you need to be thinking about how many of those positions exist in your portfolio. Now, my portfolios, the public ones that I have, or even my sort of older ones that are there, they don't typically hold a huge number of stocks. Now, I'm not going to let it fall to single digit numbers, but my large fund started small with just like 5 or 6 like core names, and then I'm adding more. I think that's really smart if you're looking to improve your rate of return, and you can pick your favorites. It's important to be investing in companies you really believe in. I can't keep up with 20 companies. I can't keep up with 30 companies. I can't keep up with 10. And as my portfolio grows, I'll probably be in a better position to keep up with more companies and more accurately track the market. But keeping up with just a few companies is a great way to maximize rate of return. Another big tip I have here is to educate yourself. That's been the point of this channel for me, is I'm learning more and more about the markets as I go through and I make these videos, and I get to focus on some really interesting concepts, and I get a lot of interesting feedback from the community here. If you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be actively investing. That's my strong belief. And that's something that I think very few of us that watch these videos need to hear, but it might be important for our relatives, our friends who are looking to also invest, but aren't interested. They don't want to sit here and watch videos on YouTube about investing. They don't want to go and be reading articles. They don't want to listen to conference calls or read earnings reports, any of that stuff. They should just be buying the market. Us who are sitting here and are interested in this stuff and want to talk about it, want to share on the internet, yeah, we're educated. We're better educated than the average person. But I think something that I sometimes forget is that there's always somebody smarter than me out there. And so I'm still trying to learn all the time. I'm, as much as I do feel like I understand, and I've done a lot of research and done a lot of work, there's still somebody out there that can teach me. So always learning, always staying educated to the best of our abilities. Final big tip here, just avoid emotional responses. The pressure when you're down on a stock to sell is huge. But if you're making smart decisions, if you have a solid thesis and you know why you own a company and that hasn't changed, don't make the emotional decision. Don't fall on your own sword here and sell at a huge loss on companies that you could be dollar cost averaging into. But at the same time, if the reason you've invested in something has changed, don't be prideful and hold on to it because you want to believe that you were right. Huge advice there. It's something I've heard from many investors, and I think it's really important. And that's about all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It means a lot and doesn't cost anything. We love to talk about the Canadian economy, investing, and all of that every week here on the channel. So if you're interested in that, I hope I see you in the next video.